We are being told that we must stop eating beef because the methane produced by cattle burps and farts is accelerating global warming. So let's look at the science. Mass balance calculations take into account material being added, exchanged, and lost during natural processes. And Australian geologist Ian Plimer breaks down this science in Eat Beef, Save the Planet. Grass, along with most plant life, consumes carbon dioxide from the air as food.
I can't tell you exactly when the war on cows began, but one thing's for sure, it doesn't really seem logical anymore that our planet is reacting to an overabundance of cow farts.
The grass consumes CO2 from the air, and when it dies, methane is released, which quickly separates into CO2 and water vapor. When the grass is eaten by cattle, this carbon is recycled in various ways. Cattle waste fertilizes the grass with some of this carbon, and the rest is stored in meat, milk, blood, intestines, bones, and skin. Thanks to the cattle, carbon is taken from the grass and used as fertilizer.
Also, most manure that we use to grow things comes from cow poo.
As food, where most of it stays with the body until death. And so the processes of meat production and consumption actually removes carbon from the atmosphere and recycles it elsewhere. Humans, cattle, and grass are all parts of the same natural ecosystem, and carbon is the building block. The entire anti-meat agenda is built upon lies. Grass-fed beef is so nutritious that an all-beef diet has become a very popular choice for people cleansing and healing from several ailments and disease. Humans are omnivores.
You really think that you can get all your nutrition from bugs? Go for it. But don't try to force the rest of us. We don't want it.
And we have the digestive enzyme trypsin.
Meat's been demonized for a long time, so much that I think a lot of people forget that there is actually a lot of nutritional value to eating red meat. And it's something that our ancestors definitely did.
Because it sustained life. Vegetarianism was only promoted among the lower castes so that enough meat was available to the warrior and priest classes. And that's all that's happening today. The all-powerful 0.1% want us lower castes to eat bugs while they save the best for themselves. But it's even worse than that. They want us all to get sick and die. In an evaluation of edible insects and the transmission of parasitic diseases, 1/3 of all insects studied were found to be pathogenic to humans. And most insects contain chitin, which is a modified polysaccharide present in most insects and absent in all mammals.
Chitin is hard for the human body to break down, and it can potentially cause lung issues.
We cannot digest it, and it is known to cause several health issues with humans who consume it, including respiratory issues and the accelerated growth of cancer cells. The real problem isn't beef consumption, it's factory farming, and we can solve this by incentivizing local grass-fed cattle farming.
So we can't have cows because that's bad for the planet, but we can have corporations like Jim Beam ramping up productions for things like whiskey. And while they claim that they're going to be mixing some renewable energy into their whiskey making process, things like that remain to be seen with most companies, and the methods that they talk about using, the jury is out on whether they're really going to be reducing any carbon footprint here besides us, because we are the carbon footprint that they want to reduce, not theirs. They're not making any effort to reduce theirs. Corporations would like to make it so that they can just slap a QR code on their food, and that QR code will indicate that it is a genetically engineered food. Luckily for now, they've been denied in court for that, but I can see that someday we're going to be walking down the grocery store aisles and our food's going to have QR stamps on it, because, you know, it's always good to eat ink or whatever. It's probably not even going to be made out of ink. Maybe graphene QR code. I mean, it's already in our food. Why not? And the abomination that is synthetic milk is coming to a grocery store near you. I mean, we already kind of have synthetic milk with oat milk and almond milk and all this stuff. And yeah, they do use oats and almond in there, but they also have usually sugars, and they all have a ton of emulsifiers. So the contents are just being held down by all these artificial ingredients. It's really not nutritious. And when I asked my pediatrician about giving my daughter almond milk, she said there's no nutrition in that. Don't even bother.
We have
from
all
Congress
been
and
eating
consumer
cloned
groups.
meat.
The agency that's supposed to protect your food supply may soon clear the way for meat and milk from cloned animals to make it to your table, some say without testing it enough.
The concern is that the FDA might rush approval and not do the studies that Congress is asking them to do.
A Senate source tells CNN the Food and Drug Administration is just days away from declaring meat and milk from cloned animals safe.
The FDA wouldn't comment on that on or off camera.
So I've got some bad news. This was in 2009. Okay, the FDA approved clone meat in 2009. So, yeah, the intro right there, you are all eating cloned meat. Yeah, likely you are, unless you're eating meat that you got directly from the farmer, grass-fed, organic beef, then likely you're eating
They'll probably
clones.
taste quite similar. But that doesn't mean that there are no changes in the milk and that there are no changes in the meat.
The human population is becoming increasingly lactose intolerant. Even though we've been drinking milk since biblical days, it's in the Bible that we drank milk. We've always drank milk, and now most people's stomachs can't even handle it. Now, some of that is the way that we process it, over-process it. In pasteurization, there is some evidence that raw milk may be better for you, although the government disagrees on this. Pasteurization aside, maybe it has something to do with being milk from cloned animals.
New frontier, good old-fashioned Aussie lamb created in a laboratory.
I've been vegetarian and vegan for nearly 30 years now, and was really looking for a product that would remove animals from the supply chain.
Not entirely. Magic Valley did seek a bit of initial help from Lucy, a newborn lamb living on a farm in New South Wales, taking from her a small skin sample.
We can use just that fingerprint-sized initial starter cell population to make thousands and thousands of tons of meat.
Basically, the harvested skin cells are turned into stem cells, which are then placed into a broth of glucose, water and other nutrients, which allow the cells to divide and expand, eventually growing into both muscle and fat.
Molecularly, it's exactly the same as lamb that you would find from traditional means.
But they readily admit the leap from lamb to lab may take carnivores some convincing.
Is it really exactly the same? I mean, what does this little lab lamb eat? Because I'm willing to go out on a limb here and say it's probably not grass.
Magic Valley's first incantation is lamb mince for tacos and burgers.
You're no doubt wondering what it tastes like. Well, it's yet to be approved for consumption, but I can tell you it looks and smells like lamb.
Also needing approval is a revolutionary product in the dairy industry, milk, also produced in a lab using precision fermentation.
Making the proteins exactly the same way as they're made inside the cow's tummy.
Co-founded by the CSIRO and Australia's largest and oldest dairy cooperatives, Norco, Werribee's Eden Brew says its product is world-leading.
When those proteins bind with the calcium, it actually makes the milk look white, for example. We can do that. To our knowledge, no one else on the planet can.
After a 2-year process, the first production run of the milk, designed to suit anyone who is lactose intolerant, was euphoric.
Oh my God, it tastes like the real thing.
With so many dairy alternatives on offer, synthetic milk may condense the household fridge and eventually budget.
We will be the same price as dairy milk within about the next 4 years.
That's all really lovely, isn't it? Until you look at the fact that dairy is actually good for you. It's the processing that we've started to use that is not. And synthetic ingredients are not good for you. Who here knows about black goo? Raise your hand. episode coming soon. Like and subscribe. Thanks.